First of all, why am I playing this game? Well, a lot of times it's actually very helpful to see what potential competitors' strengths and weaknesses are to gain more experience in improving your own product. But I don't just want this video to be, a straight up comparison to the finals. I actually do want to give some fair feedback to the developers at C77, which if you don't know are also ex-developers from games such as Battlefield and Mirror's Edge. So funnily enough, this is actually sort of like that kind of Aldi Lidl scenario, right? Where the finals devs and C77 actually do have a lot of history between them. Again, coming from DICE, for example, developing those titles. So I guess you can kind of almost take this as like a kind of friendly rivalry, right? I mean, both concepts of the finals and Combat Champions are the same. It's an arena shooter, there's destruction, sponsors, it's a game show, it's got all of it. I reached out to C77 and asked them some questions about the new title, and they state that the initial inspirations to Combat Champions is centered on gunplay previously worked on, like the Halo and Battlefield franchises, and they actually see an itch to scratch for that experience. Matthias Kylan, a veteran game developer and avid Speedball 2 enthusiast, leads C77 with Kenny Magnusson, and their fascinating backgrounds have the inspiration to add depth into their new game. Okay, so judging by some of the gameplay that you may have already seen in this video or watched elsewhere, even from what some people have been telling me, we can all raise our hands right here and agree that the technology in this game is very basic. Okay, the movement, gunplay, animations and destruction are incredibly early on in development, and this is something that we kind of really need to adjust our feedback on. They're not trying to get you to buy this product now. They're not slapping, a release date and saying, this is early access. This is just simply a playtest for people to get the early inspiration of this game. The biggest complaint I have about this game, just off the rip, is that there was literally no information or tutorials on what anything did or what I had to do initially. I kind of wanted to experience this game without looking too much into other opinions in videos, just so I kind of really went into this game raw. I knew in the back of my mind that obviously, I had to play the objectives, of course, but I was so focused on, what was happening, that, learning the movement, the shooting mechanics, etc., that it just really wasn't personally the best introduction experience. And on my live stream, I really did struggle.
What is happening? I don't know what I'm doing right now. I joined the game, I'm in, and it's half time. Special round rules, bullets instantly kill. Dude, my brain, this is like playing the finals for the first time. Like, what? Okay, so this is the halftime event. This is the what? What? What?
They're out of bounds.
Bro, what is happening? Are these bots?
If you're going to host a playtest for a new game, I do feel that, for some people, it is pretty helpful to at least have an understanding of what the simple things are, like maybe the bullet count in the magazine of a gun and, how class perks work. However, there are actually some things in this game that I think, even at this stage, is better than the finals, and if it's focused on and grown, can actually become a threat and a real competitor. Firstly, C77 does sell that game show vibe really well in this title. Actually better right now than the finals. The reason why is because in Season 2, the finals did kind of start moving away from that original reason why a lot of us loved the game, which was that, that red and white game show vibe. And, I've spoken about this a lot of times in my videos. I really loved the way Embark presented Season 2, but the hacker theme really took away from the reason why, you are playing this game. I mean, there's no personal touch, there's no journey, there's no career of you developing as a player and character in the game. And, as soon as you've passed the tutorial, you're kind of just left out there to play the game. If Combat Champions focuses on the player journey, and it does that by heart, and by that I mean, have the contestants start off as rookies, give them cutscenes, give them lore, give them, maybe like a sponsor contract negotiation scene, right? Show the crowd support them more as they grow more famous, for example, then they will actually fill a gap that the finals just isn't hitting right now. I really like that they added this introduction part of the game. It kind of feels like, you're starting off by watching it from the audience point of view, with the little clashing of the sponsors / teams here. I will say that some of the stuff in the game is a little goofy, right? This intro screen here, I don't really like it that much. Maybe you could add something called a one to watch in the intro, just kind of, for that added personal factor. But I also feel that you should be able to choose your loadout before you spawn in. So then the journey from menu to game is a lot more smooth, right? Maybe if someone did make a mistake, if they chose the wrong loadout, have a booth on the stage or something, so people could go up to it and change their kit maybe afterwards they've spawned in. But this starting area is really nice. I don't think that, it would fit well in the finals, of course, but again, it's just that added touch to share with you that you're in a game show style match, and, also pushing over the mascots is just a perfect cherry on top. When you leave the starting zone, you immediately have the option of placing yourself on these slingshot machines, which are very fun getting right back into the action. I will say that I'd actually like to be able to release the slingshot sooner at the cost of, not being shot as far, just so it kind of then feels like an actual, rubber band kind of like slingshot, where the longer you hold it, the further you charge. After I got used to the current movement in the game, I did actually start to enjoy playing it a lot more. But you can kind of see, this kind of floaty experience does kind of add to that like mobile bias that people have on it right now. The weapon I'm using here is the Archer SD9, and it actually was really nice to use. I did try as many weapons as I could, but something I actually had to keep getting used to was the fact that I don't have unlimited reserve ammo in the field. It took a while to adjust. Obviously, the finals, you do have unlimited reserve ammo. Obviously, you have to keep changing your magazine, but yeah, it was pretty strange. There's classes in the game that do fill those gaps, very, very similar to Battlefield. We have medic packs, ammo packs, but you can also choose other special classes as well with, like jetpacks, rocket launchers, or snipers. The UI coming from primarily playing the finals, I don't think I ever looked at the map once, but that's just a personal thing. It being so zoomed in, though, I didn't really feel like it was helpful anyways, looking at it from, in hindsight VOD perspectives. I still don't know what the bottom thing is or means. Maybe you guys can help me out with that, but I think I did read in some of the feedback, and they said it's an on-fire mode where a player is racking up kills and stunts. They get to briefly transform into a fireworks spraying mascot, complete with blaring metal music, buffing nearby allies. It makes you a huge target, but it's hilarious and can turn the tides if you rally your team. So again, it's a cool little smaller addition to the game. I think that that's pretty fun, but I never really got it to work myself. Maybe I'm just bad, but I'm pretty sure I had some decent streaks though. Alright, so for the game mode itself, looking in from the top down, you can see that this is a, literal template Battlefield Conquest, which is obviously a fan favorite mode, so obviously I don't have any complaints. I love this mode. But what's a bit unique here in Combat Champions is that instead they actually have a halftime show. And no, I'm not talking about like a Super Bowl halftime show. Basically, the concept is that there's a unique temporary modifier which determines who gets an advantage in the second half of the game. I will say that the game doesn't really mention to you like what's happening or going to happen, so playing for the first time, it does feel really hectic and you get completely thrown off of like what's actually going on. I don't think there needs to be like this kind of like defeat screen here, because it does look like you've lost the entire match and the match is over. Instead, I'd maybe just have like a cool transition like showing the result, maybe like a path showing like what's coming up, like a TV schedule, right? You could have like, up next, CMA halftime show brought to you by, and then, sponsor name or something. And then like after the second half is underway, just so the player kind of knows what's happening and what is going to happen, so it doesn't look like the game is over. For the actual halftime show, you have a few events. Just to name a few, we have something similar to One in the Chamber, which gives you a one-shot body shot pistol with a single bullet to eliminate opponents. You also have a rocket-only mode, which again, you have to eliminate the other opponents to gain the advantage at halftime. There's obviously a lot more, but those are just an example. The second half is similar to the first, just again, you have to fight depending on if you won or lost the halftime show. The end screen isn't really my favorite, and again, it kind of brings back a little bit of like over goofiness. I'm not saying that, this game has to be super serious, obviously, because, some people have said, oh, if this game was closer to Battlefield, it'd be better. Like, no, I really like the game show style, but I don't even know what's happening here. Now looking into the locker, which is what C77 have named the customization here for your class, we can see those 5 current roles. So what customization options are on their way in this game? Well, at the bottom here, we can see that we have 5 emotes, which I'm going to assume will be able to replace the current default ones happening in those cutscenes. But beyond that, the per class customization is quite promising. So just as an example, for Assault, we have the option to change the optic of the weapon, modify the weapon, and change the skin. I know that this is obviously something that people have been asking to see in the finals, and in a way I do agree that everyone does enjoy modding their weapon. Escape from Tarkov is an example that, it does actually go beyond just modifying, but it's still really cool, right? To be able to adjust tiny things about your gun to make it stand out even more. And obviously the finals customization is completely unmatched, and I don't think any game has beaten that so far. Obviously, there's a whole balancing behind, modifying your weapon, so I'm not really going to comment, but let's just go back to Combat Champions. This is something I'm going to be playing a close eye on looking at, but right now, it's a work in progress. As for the map designs, I think that they are actually really good. There's a lot of freedom as to what you can do as a player, for example, going on top of buildings. And the balance between open and close quarter combat is actually pretty damn good in my opinion. I will say that I don't really like the whole return to combat thing in the game. As there isn't really an indicator before it, that you're about to go outside of the zone. I mean, it's obviously something that happens in Battlefield anyway, in other titles. It's something that I'll get used to, but for a newer player experience, it can catch them off guard. I actually really enjoy playing on the desert map, but one of the things I noticed with how the slingshot works is that once a team has control of, let's just say, C has the advantage, it's very difficult to actually progress because people will just die and respawn very quickly to get right back into the action again from parachuting in. Okay, so overall, let's just tie this up. Thix, is Combat Champions a real competitor to the finals? Well, simply put, my answer is not at all, and the game is completely different to the finals anyway, and the finals anyway is just already years ahead of the tech that Combat Champions has. I asked C77 what their strategy was to ensure a long-term success at the company, because why should you, or me, be invested in this game long-term? One of the things mentioned was C77 stating that they want to make sure their game keeps you coming back for more. In its current form, this means making sure that every single match is different, maximizing fun and replay value, focusing on variety. And obviously, we do have a little bit of variety in the game right now with the different modifiers, but maybe some different game modes, for example, that they could start focusing on too, in terms of, instead of just having like a conquest mode. Beyond that, they say we've got some unique strategies for progression and player interaction that we're really excited about, but getting too deep onto this topic is a bit too premature. So that's good. This is something that, again, I said, is a gap here that the finals doesn't reach on. So if this game does do that, and kind of focuses on that, there could be something there. But to be completely transparent, they say our vision is ambitious, but its realization hinges on the results of our market test, which is the one that they've had so far this weekend. Combat Champions has a start, okay? And, we can sit here all day in the comment section and between you and me, you can say if the game has, if it's a good or bad start. But the point is that it's still a start, okay? Some elements of this game can elevate it into capturing the things that a lot of players in the finals enjoy, like, for example, that game show element that Embark has started drifting away from. If they improve the tech, like for example, if this was something like XDefiant or closer tech-wise to Battlefield with a game show twist, then it would start to be a concern and a real competitor to other titles. I mean, really this game, if it had, let's say, 2 years or so more development in it, could actually be more of a competitor to XDefiant than the finals. But overall, this is my review of the game. I apologize to C77 for having it so focused against the finals, but that is my personal expertise. But my message to you as a team is that I'm very excited to see where you take the game, and I think player progression is a mark that even the finals misses out on. So I'd love to see you battle Embark in that way, but if the tech improves, like I know you will obviously all work on, then we can start really talking about the future ideas of this game. But please don't listen to people nowadays being so harshly critical about your title. We're in a world where anything you do will be judged to the highest regard, and people will mock your game. They'll be like, yeah, well, the graphics are bad, the tech is bad, the netcode's bad, and then they'll say you guys will fail. But they fail to see that this is a playtest, and a small group of developers simply making a game that they believe and have passion in. Opinions are obviously welcome, but that's the point, why you guys do these tests. But there's some people that would just say this game will fail, okay? So I support all of you, and thank you very much for reaching out to me to test this game. I really do actually think Sonic is here, and would love to see more development in this game as time passes on. So thank you very much, C77. Okay, guys, that's all from me. My name's been Thix, and I'll see you on the podium.